invite you to turn to the people all around you and recognize their inherent worth and dignity. Good morning. I'm Reverend Bob Rangillian. I am the minister here at the Unitarian Universalist of Transylvania County. I'm so glad to see you here. I use he, him pronouns. What else do you want to know about me? I don't know, but I'm not the one preaching today. So to give you a hint of who's preaching, if you've not already met Reverend Lydia Ferrante-Roseberry, we welcome our guest. Yes, for those of you who met already, I'll be saying things you heard yesterday during the workshop. She loves helping congregations thrive. She brings 25 years of parish ministry experience into her consulting with Stewardship for us. Having served 3 congregations of various sizes, she's helped each of them align their vision and their values, and then foster generous giving to live into that vision. She brings experience of having led a congregation that successfully completed a $4.5 million capital campaign for an environmentally sustainable building project back in 2020. Reverend Lydia is most passionate about the individual and the community transformation that is possible when people come together to create something none could have imagined alone. That's what this weekend has been about. She and her husband Phil have 2 young adult children and live in Louisville, Colorado. Is that how you say it in Colorado?
No, we say Louisville.
Louisville. You pronounce all the letters. Louisville, Colorado, outside of Boulder. Reverend Lydia enjoys many practices that keep her aligned with the mystical power of love, including regular connection with nature, qigong, social activism, dancing with the interplay community, and she enjoys cooking, hiking, engaging conversation, playing cards, and painting rocks. It's a pretty good long introduction here. And she's been, I can tell, having fun getting to know us. Yeah, blast. All right. So among other announcements, today is Super Sunday. Many thanks to all the volunteers who brought crock pots with delicious choices, and we'll get to the soup after the question and answer session that is right after the benediction. So we're going to ask you to hang out for a little bit and come up with all the questions you can before your hunger drives you from the space. We can do that. I also have an announcement of something coming up in a couple of weeks. The Loving Hearts Care Team is holding on Sunday, March 8th, everyone's birthday party. Everyone will be celebrated with cakes and beverages after that service on Sunday, March 8th. And we may actually be done with the cookies and baked goods that we have sitting on the counter. By then, I think it's at least 2 weeks worth of coffee hour sitting on our table out there. So we'll be ready for birthday cake at that point. I will not be around this week. I will be serving on my committee that I work for the Unitarian Universalist Association on religious education professionals credentialing process. And I'll be spending Monday through Thursday with them. And because it's being held here in Western North Carolina, I'm the one who's going to be driving people to and from the airport and doing other things like that, along with leading worship on Tuesday and doing other things for them. But so I'm not going to be very responsive, but please do reach out by email or text if there are pastoral issues you need me to get back to you when I have a break in the schedule. I know that there are more things going on than I have announced. I will say that we're back at it. This is a congratulations, not an announcement. A congratulations to Kevin and Tricia and everybody in the community, all the sponsoring organizations. We have rebooted the LGBTQIA+ youth support group that is meeting here at UUTC. They just met Thursday night. Yes. Transylvania County had one that we helped start a couple years ago, and it fizzled out. It was time to reboot with even more sponsors, sponsoring organizations, and very needed in our time. So that was a congratulations, not saying it's coming up, it just happened. We will now find our way into the beauty of worship together with the wonderful music of John Austin. Would you help in lighting our chalice? Thank you. Our unison words for our chalice lighting are from Adrian L.H. Graham, and they come from the UUA program, The Promise and the Practice. Please join in with the words that are on the screen. We kindle a flame of power, illuminating the holy in each of our faces. We recognize in the flame a passionate commitment to our shared faith. We are held and carried from day to day in the shining of the light. This flame is mine as well as yours. We are brought together on this day, called to growth, to expansion within its glow. What does your heart know while beholding this holy fire? And if this still works, you can take the flame over here. Would you light candles? Or if it doesn't work, we have a clicker or a taser. Okay. Yeah, bring the flame over here, and we'll light candles of joy and sorrow. There are a couple of joys and sorrows that have been left here on the table for us, and I will read from others that I have here. One, a candle of remembrance from Doug Fredley for his father, Ted Fredley, who passed away on February 17th, and his mother, Carolyn, who passed away 2 years ago. Both Carolyn and Ted were very active and loving members of this congregation, roughly from 2006 to 2018 here in Brevard. And Doug says their love of your church was so deep that they donated their baby grand piano at the time. And so we remember them in this time. I'd like to light a candle for those who have just gone through recent surgeries. May we wish for hope for quick healing results. And also a candle for Rick, who is facing a return of cancer and facing all the therapies that may be starting this week. Our love and support and best wishes for you. May you be supported in love, Rick. We have Loie lights a candle of joy that Bruce is home from a week at the John C. Campbell School. Wonderful. And a candle in memory of Dylan Carter, the son of friends from the First Unitarian Church in Dallas and a friend of our own children. Christy's writing this note, but it's from both of us. A friend of our own children when we lived there from 96 to 2000. He lost his battle with mental illness. And we light one more candle for those things not yet shared, held in the hearts of people who are right here, or perhaps those of you who are watching online. May the glow of each of these candles bring up our love. Spirit of love and life, in the glow of these candles, we pray and meditate on all that has been shared here, both the joys and the sorrows. Our breath exhales, only to be inhaled by others. May we remember in our prayers, in our connection, that the love is also shared as well. Blessed be, amen. Opening words are from Betz Weinecke, and they're short and really great to listen to. As we gather together this morning, may we learn to recognize and affirm the pieces of possibility, the bits of good we bring. May we encourage rather than control, love rather than possess, enable rather than envy, allowing our individual gifts to weave a patchwork of peace, the soft, deep blue of sensitivity and understanding, the red energy of creativity, the white heat of convictions, the risky, fragile green of new growth, the golden flashes of gratitude, and the warm rose of love. Each of us is indispensable if we are to minister to a broken and wounded world. Together, in our gathered diversity, we form the whole. So be it. Come, let us worship together. I invite you to join in our opening hymn, number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. The words are on the screen.
Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
All right, I'm going to come down front for this story. This is the truth as I have been told it. Part of it I know for a fact, and part of it I really trust the person who told me, who said it was a fact. All right, so kids, I used to be a ministerial intern in a congregation in Long Island, New York. Any idea where Long Island, New York is? So some of you have an idea? So you got this whole New York state, and then you got this part that comes out from it all the way out into the ocean. That's Long Island, miles and miles and miles. And they have a highway called the Lie. Well, it's abbreviated that way, Long Island Expressway. And the reason why it's a lie is because it's never an expressway, it's always a parking lot. Okay. But I did my internship as a minister, learning how to be a minister on Long Island. And the congregation I was in was very unique. And I'm going to tell you a tale of two congregations. The associate minister for pastoral care of that congregation told this story because he had been a minister in Kentucky before going to Long Island. And he told of congregation, it was not a Unitarian Universalist congregation. He just knew about it. This congregation had land in Kentucky, and they had found oil on their property. So they had a big congregational meeting to vote what to decide about having oil on their property. And the congregation decided that they would indeed sell the mineral rights and have the oil tapped on their property. That was their first vote. Second vote, that all proceeds from that profit of the oil would go evenly distributed to all the members of the congregation. Third motion, that from that moment on, the membership of the church was closed. But the internship church I was in did something different. That church had helped out a widow, Mrs. Veach, who lived in the town. And she said, I'm a widow. I am needing funds. My husband had been a geologist before the Nazis took over. And he should have mineral rights that he could have passed on to me, that he could have willed me. And I could live off of the royalties from that over there in Europe, in Germany. But I need help. Do you have people who can help me? And so the church helped her win the case that indeed the Nazis had stolen his rights when they took power, and that they would grant them to her, all those mineral rights. And when she was so pleased, she said, I will give these to you. And so when she died, she passed along the mineral rights to the congregation. And when I was there as a ministerial intern, the amount that they got that just that year from the mineral rights was $14 million. But what that congregation had voted to do back when they got willed the mineral rights was they said, what we get from this, we want to spread with Unitarian Universalist values. We're going to help support the budget of the Unitarian Universalist Association. And we're going to do matching grants for the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. And if you ever get a mailing from the Univ Service Committee saying, give now, the Veach Committee is going to match everything that comes in this month, you know it's because they've got millions and millions to give away. And they didn't pay taxes. They were a church. They didn't pay taxes. So people in town were kind of resentful of this big, rich church sitting there not paying any taxes. So they decided every year we're going to ask the fire department what equipment they need. And the fire department would say, we need all new radios in all our volunteers' cars so that they can come out and report to fires. Got it. The church would pay for it. They decided that they were going to be a good neighbor with their funds. They did not vote to divide all the money to themselves. They did not vote to close the membership of the congregation. In fact, the membership kept growing and growing and growing because they lived their values and they showed the world of how important their values were. That's a tale of two churches. Which church would you rather be in? And I know you're going to say, I want all the money, right? I want all the money. But that's not what we teach, right, kids? Come on, say it. We don't teach greed, okay? No. So, I think we're part of the church that says we're here and all of our assets, our building, everything we do is to live out our values and to show the rest of the community. That's a really good way to live. That's my story. I'm sticking with this story. You bet. All right, Cora, come on up and we will light the candle as we sing you out to your classes. Come on over here. And tilt that sideways. Peace be with you and our blessing. Peace be with you and our blessing. Peace be with you and our blessing as you leave us now. Now, wasn't that a great story just before we have the offering? Any of you happen to know of mineral rights that we could do something with? All right. Now, for our offering today, as always, I do believe that this ritual that we do is a very important one in which we say, yeah, we're giving to something that is of value to us. And this place is of value to our community. Whether it's what I just announced, we restarted the youth group, or whether it was last weekend if you came to the Jewish lecture, where we were the last minute selection place to be able to host such a lecture in the community. Whatever it is that you know that we do right in saying who we're about, your money's going towards that when you give a little bit. And the envelope this month is what you voted was this month's charity of the month, the Bread of Life. And we have heard how much exponentially the demand on meals has been in our community. Whatever you give from your heart. We will now gratefully receive the morning offering. Thank you, Alice. Thank you, Gypsy. What is given in love, we receive with great joy. Thank you.
Good morning. Morning. This great song was written by a gentleman named Labi Sifra, who's an English gentleman of African descent. And in the 1980s, he was a very successful pop singer-songwriter who decided that he was going to give up his career because he didn't like what was happening in the music business. But a few years later, when he was watching television one day, the struggles going on in South Africa fighting apartheid was on television, and he got up and he wrote this song.
What a here we go. What a delight to be worshiping with you this morning after spending this weekend getting to know you a little bit better. The reading this morning is from the Reverend Dr. Rebecca Ann Parker, who was the president of Star King School for the Ministry when I was there in the late 1990s and a mentor of mine. She writes, in the midst of a world marked by tragedy and beauty, there must be those who bear witness against unnecessary destruction and who, with faith, rise and lead in freedom with grace and power. There must be those who speak honestly and do not avoid seeing what must be seen of sorrow and outrage or tenderness and wonder. There must be those whose grief troubles the water as their voices sing and speak refreshed worlds. There must be those whose exuberance rises with lovely energy that articulates earth's joys. There must be those who are restless for respectful and loving companionship amongst human beings, whose presence invites people to be themselves without fear. There must be those who gather with the congregation of remembrance and compassion, who draw water from old wells and walk the simple path of love for neighbor. And there must be communities of people who seek to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with God, who call on the strength of soul force to heal, transform, and bless life. There must be religious witness. Especially after my time here this weekend, that reading that I chose earlier this week with Reverend Bob feels even more poignant. What I have seen here amongst you is a congregation that lives these values, the values of religious witness, here on this corner in Brevard, in a community that is, how have I heard it, a blue dot in the red state, but regardless of politics, right? Regardless of the politics, you are a beacon that is inviting love, centered on compassion, both caring for each other and out in the world. It is an honor to be here with you. I was invited here. Oops, look, I have my slides too. Where's my slides? Is it working? Is it going to do what I want it to do? Doug, am I pressing the right thing? Towards the right thing? What am I looking at? I love your chalice. It's actually in some of my slides, but I have another. Aim it at Doug. There we go. It's like the brain, through his brain. Okay. And now hopefully they will work. I was invited here by your board and capital campaign team to assess your readiness for a capital campaign and to make recommendations for next steps for your vision to expand this campus. This assessment is more than a weekend. I'm going to Doug's head again. Doug's going to move it. Excellent. It's a whole process where I've gathered information on your history, your finances, and a lot of your different structures. I had many meetings with staff and lay leaders and congregants before this weekend and during this weekend, as many of you can attest to. And I created a questionnaire for your input. And now it's my time to provide reflections back to the congregation about your current state of giving, your capital campaign readiness, and the next steps. And I will be giving a final report to the board and the capital campaign team within a couple of weeks. And I don't, I want to just start actually with your mission. Can I do it? Doug, that's not going to, there we go. Your mission. What is it? What was the mission impossible? If you choose to accept it, is to support individual spiritual journeys and to promote social, economic, and environmental justice. Those of you who were here for any part of my day yesterday probably heard me share how I find these particular moments in congregational life to be deeply transformative. They have this potential for you all to break open into new ways of being. There's an unleashing of power and generosity when a community comes together to focus on a vision and then acts in unison to accomplish something that none could do alone. And then I also find that supporting, that this community is a community of individuals. And during this process is an opportunity for you all to imagine aligning your values with your resources in new ways. And I believe that that is spiritual work. That each of us have places where we are misaligned, our actions and our values, our resources and our values. And the more we put those together, the more we live lives of integrity. And that integrity makes us more spiritually whole. So that's why I do this work. Then, in addition to that, there is a part of that the moment we are in, this moment for this community to be daring to be a beacon of light and hope when so much of what we see around us is moving in the opposite direction. Here, you at UUTC on the corner of South Broadway and Varsity Streets, right in downtown Brevard, do you have any idea of what a visual source of hope you will be when the community sees you expanding your campus? When so much of what we see around us is encouraging us to hide and shrink and to create this fear-mongering space that naturally promotes scarcity, you will be embodying abundance, which is also fully present right now, even though the narrative is that nobody has enough. To be creating a place of belonging and love, you are building your capacity to be here for the long haul. In the past 2 days, you shared with me your dreams and your hopes, and they are beautiful. You are imagining this corner lot being even more than it is today as a harbinger of community connection, a safe haven for those who have been marginalized, who live in fear, and who wonder where they belong. You're wondering how you will meet the needs of the next generation and wanting to offer them what you have found here: love, acceptance, friendship, belonging, hope. And in the midst of that wondering, you are innovating, taking your family offerings in addition to Sunday morning, but out into the community, into summer camps, LGBTQ teen nights, and Adulting 101 classes, adapting to the changes you experience around you. You're partnering with key organizations in town from the NAACP, Bread of Life, the LGBTQIA Rainbow Alliance, and knowing that your energy goes further in partnership. This is brilliant. Y'all are doing a lot of beautiful, beautiful things. The UUA is asking each of our congregations and each of our individuals who are Unitarian Universalists to meet this moment. From their website, they say the Unitarian Universalist values have always pushed our people to show up, to risk, to struggle for justice and liberation, and radically inclusive communities centered in love. The heart of our faith transcends cultural shifts and political trends, but at key moments throughout the centuries, our religious ancestors have always been willing to transform themselves and their faith to meet the needs of the moment, to let go of what no longer serves, to open to new possibilities, to seize opportunities and lean into aspiration and innovation. At our best, Unitarian Universalists are both deeply grounded in our core values and shared commitments, and nimble enough to respond to the challenges and opportunities that emerge in rapidly changing times. I hope you see yourself in that. You are doing that here in your congregation, adapting, seizing the moment, seeing what's needed, and creating a vision that's larger than perhaps many of you could have imagined for what this campus can be and what you can be in this community. As you continue to imagine this future, the invitation is to rise up to this moment, amplify your gifts, and be the light that's needed in our world right now. I want to share with you a little bit more about what I've heard and learned from you. In just a moment. Let's see if I can get these slides to work. It did it, I think. Great. There was a survey. 88 people responded as of the 18th, and there were 87 respondents to this particular question. We asked you, or I asked you, what your greatest strengths were as a congregation, and you said the community and the people. 50 of you said you're welcoming and inclusive, and boy, I heard that a lot in these couple days, and I felt it. You talked about your music, which again I've had the pleasure of experiencing this morning, and your minister and staff. Your top priorities to further your top challenges, your facilities and your building, growing your membership, financial stability, and the growth of programs. Is that it? Are we at challenges? There we go. Your top priorities: membership growth, facilities and building improvement, social justice, community outreach, and worship and music. These are your priorities for which to focus your attention. And then I asked you what likely support there was for a capital campaign without seeing any pictures, with just a hazy vision in front of you. There were 71 out of the 81 respondents who said they would be somewhat likely or very likely to contribute. That is fabulous. That is a sign of readiness for y'all. Did that go twice? Let me share with you some of the blessings that I have experienced. You have a very, very generous annual pledging. And when I mentioned with minimal effort to the pledge team, they were not so happy with me. So please don't hold that against me. What I meant there was what I have been hearing across the board is that that somebody says it's pledge time and people make their pledges. And that you are very ready. There isn't a lot of follow-up. Every congregation has some follow-up, but the people are very open and ready to pledging. Oftentimes we invite people, and we will for a capital campaign, to do direct asks with individual visits, and that has really just not been necessary here yet for you all to meet your needs. You have a fabulous location. I came into this space and it just looks beautiful and well cared for. And that when someone walks into that space that looks that way, they feel like the community also cares for each other. It just feeds on itself. You have well-loved staff and a fabulous minister. A history of getting things done and faithful leaps. I started to wonder this weekend, who was it who saw a gas company, a garage, and imagined it as a sanctuary? Right? That is a faithful leap from the generations before you. And then who was it who saw property over on that side and took the faithful leap to buy it with a mortgage that is perfectly within your capacity to be paying off. You have this resilience, these people before you that have done fabulous things as stewards of this congregation, imagining a future that they would not be around for, many of them, and that they couldn't quite imagine it in full detail. You have deeply committed lay leaders. You are living your values by paying just wages for your staff and promoting that right on your door. That was just so delightful to see. So then when other people come in here, they know that the value of a living wage is important to this congregation. And you have a deeply caring and welcoming congregation. All right, I'm going to try it again, Doug. Let's see. Okay, your challenges and opportunities. You have a crowded foyer and fellowship area, right? You have, there's a, I guess I didn't, inadequate office staff and RE spaces. I've started to do, say, the large classroom in air quotes because because it's not that large. And I wasn't even in the small classroom. And so as you imagine the future that you want to be for each other, a variety of different spaces is going to be really important. And a space that can, going from holding 12 people to being able to hold, to having to come into this room or into an open setting and not having intimate spaces is a hindrance. You have an older congregation. You're not alone there. It's a part of what this generation of congregational constellations is looking at. But I see that innovation of like, how are we reaching families? Your reach is far greater than what's happening Sunday morning, and your diversity is far greater than what's happening Sunday morning. And then I talked about channeling the generosity. What I have heard amongst you is a lot of generosity, a lot of abundance, and that when things need to happen, the money appears. And that is fabulous. In the midst of a capital campaign, you're going to want to be really, really focused on channeling that, channeling the generosity toward the vision that you have together so that everyone feels like they're included in that vision and has an opportunity to give to that vision. Sometimes if things are happening over the side, there can be people who feel like, well, then it will just magically happen. And you won't be building the ownership and the investment of the whole congregation that you can with a capital campaign where everybody's focused forward. Building a collective public ministry would be another challenge or opportunity for you. I have heard how actively involved many of you are individually living your UU values out in the world. And I want you to imagine that you do that collectively, that you're all wearing Side with Love t-shirts, or you're carrying your UUTC banner with you on No King's Day. And so you're bringing out into the community not only your individual values, but that this is a place that lives those values in a very public way. And then I want to recommend you build your online presence, which I didn't see much of. It certainly is one of the avenues for this next generation to join you. Personally, I'm not an online person. I have some ambivalence about it. However, it is really important for messaging and getting out into the world. So are you ready for a capital campaign? Are you ready? Okay, here's what we look for. Healthy finances, annual funding reserves, and processes. You have those. And it was a delight to hear Reverend Bob and I were talking about having a bookkeeper and how important that has been for your for you to be able to unleash the leadership to do other things and have the stability of a staff person managing your book. So that's a real gift. And especially going into a capital campaign, the bookkeeping, Chelsea, will get more complex. So it'll be really wonderful to have someone there. But I also want to be clear that that does not absolve a treasurer and the board from their fiduciary responsibility of being attentive to the books and the numbers and making the strategic changes and policies around that. You have a healthy congregation. You're engaged, you're covenantal, and you're low drama. Really wonderful. You have a compelling shared vision for the use of funds that's developing and getting larger. And you have awareness of the need and a sense of urgency. Both urgency that I'm experiencing here and how this space doesn't match a congregation of your size and with your vision, but also urgency in the context of this moment. We need our congregations to be vital, strong, and large enough to contain their vision. So let's talk. Oh, he's getting ahead of me now. Let's talk about what's next. It's our experience. Congregations are generally able to raise 3 to 5 times their annual giving for building, expanding, and renovating. So for this congregation, that's about 1.7 million. That's a number that can look pretty daunting as you look around, right? And I want to assure you that it's doable. We have this experience. We've seen it for many, many years. That 3 to 5 is a pretty realistic, thank you, realistic. And that there are some outliers. There's definitely congregations that raise more than that. And that just depends on what's going on within your congregation and the sense of urgency and vision you have. There we go. This has a lot of words, so I'll make sure I read them, and you'll have access to this slide presentation. So you may raise that 3 to 5 times if your congregation is healthy, which y'all seem pretty healthy, and folks are excited to build your future, so that compelling vision. You will need anchor gifts, including at least one, which is about 15% of the total, and 2 or 3 at this level is best. So for a $1.7 million campaign, that would be, 1 or more gifts of $250,000. Capital campaigns do not affect annual giving, so it is super important that people don't kind of trade that in their mind, because you do not want to have a spanking new building and no staff, because you can't afford your staff, right? You want to have the staffing, the programming, all the things that you have in place and strong and ready for the anticipated excitement and change that's going to happen with your building. And oftentimes the gifts from capital campaigns come from other assets. So people are taking from savings and usually people take their annual giving from their income. What else do I want to say? Capital campaigns involve face-to-face stewardship. And so there's a process to go through to train stewards about, I think I have the number in here, I think you'll need about 29 to 30 stewards to do individual visits with people. You'll need about 29 to do these visits. And the congregation to be committed to doing that. And I understand you're not in practice of doing that maybe that happened years ago, but now you have your generosity just flows. Well, learning about the projects and sharing what excites you about the project, all of those are going to be really important in these individual visits. 2 factors make it successful, those major gifts, and about as close to 100% involvement as possible. So those visits will go to every single member of the congregation and friends, and sometimes, people think about people who still love the congregation but no longer attend for a variety of reasons. And that a capital campaign is all about making your mission manifest in the world. So keeping really clear on that vision, that mission about who you are going to be, who you can be. Getting ready for a capital campaign. Follow these recommended next steps. Create yourself a steering committee. And then the architect with the property committee leadership, the architect will develop 3 concept plans, and then lots of small group meetings for people to look at them, think about them. What do you like about this plan and not this plan? Do you think you can reach a plan that is that it requires $1.7 million in pledges? And that might not be the whole budget of the campaign, because you could also do a mortgage like other people, like the people before you did when they had a great vision. Inspire, educate, and engage the congregation as much as possible. Then choosing one concept plan to move forward. and develop that goal for the campaign to use in a feasibility study, which is an interviews with about 20% of the congregation, done by a neutral interviewer, so a consultant, and that helps you really define how much you really can raise for this project, which parts of the project are most exciting for people, and how to move forward with the capital campaign. Again, I recommend a steering committee with the project planning team and the combined campaign team. The timeline that I was talking to leadership about was doing the actual campaign next spring, and the steps that lead up to it, before then. And then you would do training for your visiting stewards, which I'm going to say for folks who aren't used to doing these one-to-one visits, people often are kind of nervous about that. And they come out of the process thinking it was really fun. That they've made connections they didn't have with either new people or with people that they thought they knew, and then they learn all these other things about them. And it really builds the energy and the connectivity of the congregation to do these individual visits. And the stewards will get trained, so they understand the role, they develop their own personal story, they become familiar with the campaign and the materials, they get to practice, and they get their questions answered. Successful campaigns, which I have no doubt that you can have, are inspiration, education, and engagement. So this is a time for the congregation, which is already together, to really hone in on their vision, on your vision together. And I'm going to leave you, whoops, I missed that one, there we go, with some closing words, and then we'll pray together. The closing words are from Daniel Burnham, who is an architect and city planner. He writes, "Make no little plans. They have no magic to stir the blood and probably will not be realized. Make big plans. Aim high in hope and work, remembering that a noble, logical structure, once erected, will never die, but long after we are all gone, will be a living thing. Remember that our children and grandchildren are going to do things that would stagger us. So make no little plans." This is your moment. This is your moment as a congregation to do this generational leap that others before you have done to get you here and to prepare the way for you. Make no little plans. And finally, I will end in gratitude. Thank you for all you are and all you do. You matter. You matter here. Let us pray together. Spirit of life and of love, God of many names and yet unnameable, Spirit of our ancestors who lived with vision and hope for a future they could not imagine, and those who will come after, for whom we prepare a way. Open up our hearts so that we may feel the presence of love here among us and in every moment of our lives. Grant that we experience the true abundance of life, even in a world that is turning away from the truth of the glory of our diversity. May we experience the joys of life, even in the hard moments. Notice the coming of spring. Feel the comfort of community. Engage in the power of a common vision that brings hope to an ailing world. May you, beloved community, be granted what you need to act with generosity, courage, and conviction, speaking truth to power and offering what you know of beauty and love to all who enter your doors, and truly all you encounter. May the spirit of love buoy you up, increasing your awareness of life's abundance, inviting you into deeper and deeper connections and deeper generosity in the alignment of what you love, what you know to be true, and your actions and resources. Through this, the prayer is to bring love and keep love at the center of our lives. Blessed be. Amen.
I think it's appropriate, since we're talking about our expansion, to sing the hymn that we practiced last month, If There Ain't Room for Me. The choir's going to help us out here. We'll have the words on the screen, and some of you got the music sheets because you find it helpful to you. I invite you to rise and sing enthusiastically.
If there ain't room for you, if there ain't room for me and you, there ain't a space for me, there ain't a space for me. If there ain't room for me and you, people talking through civility and caring for the dignity, so you gotta make room for the same to go on. If there ain't room for me, that ain't the space for me. You gotta make room for this way to go on. If my neighbor can go, if the stranger can go, if the neighbor and the stranger can go, that ain't a place for me, that ain't the space for me. Starting with love is the way for you and me. People who love make room, starting with love make room for me. Love community, that's the place for me. Starting with love make room, lighten up the circle, make room. That is the space for me and you. That is the space for me and you. You gotta make room for me.
You want me to do that? I can do that. You're on it.
I'm on it. Dear beloved Unitarian Universalists, may you know that you matter. You matter here in this space. You matter in the way you care for each other and the way you open your arms to others. May you experience the abundance of life. May you know that generosity is a gift that we give others. And may you live your vision. Blessed be. Amen. And now I will entertain any questions you might have, and I can even go back on my
And
slides.
it may be helpful if I get a mic from Doug. I also can come around with my mic if you have a question.
There's
true.
one in the back. And
John's got a mic
hi,
too.
Ian. Yeah, a mic is helpful.
The mic is hanging. I appreciate your time, Reverend, from yesterday. It's been a wonderful experience that I had, but I think you need to tell us again, because when you learn one thing, you need to learn it quite a few times.
Yes.
That is, wow, this is going to happen like tomorrow? What? I'm
Oh, the
afraid it's
time.
going
You
to
want
be,
a timeline, don't you?
like, am I anxious to get my, do I need to pledge today?
Today.
That's my
No,
question.
you do not need to play. Thank you so much for reminding me of a timeline. We were talking about that with the board before the service today. And it's looking, based on where you are in your working with the architect, it is looking like you would do a capital campaign at the same time as your spring pledge drive-in next year. Next year. So your spring pledge drive is happening now. So we're talking about next March would be when you would do the capital campaign. There's lots of steps before that. The feasibility study, getting the picture, the concept plans, and really being able to have the congregation engaged. Thank you so much for reminding me that I didn't kind of mention that. Yeah, hi. Microphones will help everybody.
We are building. Is it something connected to this building or?
So the property committee has just engaged an architect. So they're just starting. They're going to be starting to get some of those pictures. And Michael might be able to answer if there's any timeline around that. But
Yeah, we're looking probably within the next 60 days. We're going to be presenting to some different conceptual designs. And some might be attached, some might not, and some might look like this, some might look like that.
yeah.
We want to give you different options to look at from that and narrow it down as the residents ultimately will.
So I will repeat that. I will repeat that through a microphone. That it's about 60 days, hopefully, that the architect will come back with some conceptual designs. And that's a super fun part because you get to look at things and you get to really, imagine what you think will work for you and how it meets your hopes and dreams. So, and then that gets honed and honed and honed through conversations, through circle meetings, and then ultimately a congregational vote that this is the vision that you're going for with this expected price tag. Yeah.
I think it's worth saying that when people are hearing this maybe for the first time and they're thinking about a large sum of money, that this can be spread out
Thank
over
you.
3 years, correct? It's
usually
not
3
a
years, yep.
one time. Did everybody hear what I said?
Yeah.
Okay. I think it would be worth saying for people who haven't been here yesterday and thinking about a large amount of money, that it can be spread out over a 3-year period
Mm-hmm.
once you decide what you can do. It's not a one-time big payment.
Yes. It is. It's a pledge over 3 years. Thank you. Some people make one-time gifts, but most people do not.
May I add that I believe, and Michael, if I'm wrong,
Waiting for the mic allows us to pause and take in what was said
I
last time.
think it's important to say, if it's true still, that the sanctuary is not going to be part of it. It's going to be outside there and partially what you see with the offices and so on. Sanctuary remains. Is that correct? Yes, at this point.
Anyone else have questions? Up over here.
Yes, I've been asked to have you repeat what you just said. Or what Kristen said.
Oh, what Kristen said was that the sanctuary is not part of the concept plans for right now. Not phase one. That this space works for you pretty well, and you have a history of going to 2 services if need be, and that it really is the other spaces that are inadequate for your capacity, current capacity, and for your dreams. Yes, and having that other property. What vision people had in this congregation, really, that you're.
I have, well, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My question is, do we look to exploration of grants and other outside funding along with our pledging in any shape or form?
You could. Not too many congregations take advantage of that, but I would recommend it. I don't know if there's, sometimes congregations with historic buildings can do that. That's not your case, but you could look into seeing what other options you have as well.
I just wanted to give another piece of insight in terms of our timeline, which things that put pressure on us doing this sooner rather than later. In 2032, we will have to take care of those other little buildings that we currently have access to, and we will no longer have access to. And one of the advantages of that little yellow house has been that some groups who need privacy can meet in there and not be heard by the rest of the building.
I think it would be helpful to have not a synopsis of what we saw, but a printout of what we saw.
Absolutely.
And did you consider what has done in the past here? There was efforts to have architectural and so forth. Have they been brought forward?
That I don't know. Well, I'll answer your first question first, is that I will be meeting with the board in a couple weeks with an expanded version of this presentation, and then it becomes the congregations to use as you will.
Well, there were thoughts in the past along these lines.
So it looks like Michael has his hand up as the property committee person.
Okay.
And he wants to answer that question for you. Is that right, Michael? Are you getting?
Yeah, I'm not sure how far back you're referring to, but we started this 2.5 years ago, the fall of 2023. And in the summer of last year, we selected and retained an architect. All the work that architect has done has been moving forward. We've had some unexpected delays due to zoning issues we're having to deal with and some other factors. But we've been pulling forward all the work that's been done since fall of 2023, which you may recall back in October 23, we had a presentation here about what we had come together on, which was a high-level campus vision. That is holding together and is a key point of reference for the architects.
Was there work that was maybe done before that? I'm looking at the gentleman who made the first comment. Like, are you thinking there was work, there were visions from 10 years ago or more, or?
I can answer that.
Okay.
I've been involved in a couple of times with that. And we actually hired an architect around 2010, I think it was, to draw up plans or at least give us a concept of what we could do. So I imagine that'll be talked about with this committee, and but we've come a long way since that time. So
Yeah, it's good to look back at what you've done, but also not be, especially if it's over a decade old, not be, feel beholden to that, but like what's additive to what was done and what still makes sense. Other questions?
Reverend Bob, you mentioned phase one. I didn't know there were phases to this process.
Well, and I say it as if there's some big plan in place. There isn't. But as was described, when we did our visioning, when we did these conversations 2 years ago and following up, most people said the sanctuary is meeting our needs and can continue to meet our needs if we go back to 2 services. I also have in my brain that the sanctuary size is what determines how many parking spaces we have. and that we are 9 spaces short, and that's why we arranged with the county to park across the street. So there are 2 things that I have said out loud. One is, you seem to know how to work with the sanctuary, and it's a lovely space and works for us. And 2, you mess with the sanctuary, you mess with parking. So at first, what we need to talk about is, why is our large classroom so tiny? Why is our wonderful Wednesday impossible for people who are introverts? And those kinds of bits and pieces of, yeah, can we deal with the things that we already know aren't working?
I might mention in terms of the sanctuary space, and this is old knowledge, so it may have changed, but my understanding from the city is that we can expand this space by 25% without impacting the parking. Once we go, so we're kind of grandfathered in, if you will. If we go beyond that 25% expansion, then it triggers a whole new set of regulations, including the parking spaces that we're required to have. I'm Rick Lawless.
Hi, Rick.
I always like to present some reality and some counterpoint into the discussion.
Great.
In the time of difficulty of affordability, increased health care, increased insurance, we are getting older. When I hear these big dreams that people have, given the environment that we currently exist in, I become very anxious, fearful of how real this dream can be, given all of the factors that are kind of battling us just to survive. I know there's a lot of people in this community that are well off, and there's a lot of people in this community that live, I'm not sure paycheck to paycheck, but money is definitely an issue. So when I hear these capital programs, I just get a lot more anxious given the environment that we currently exist in.
Thank you for naming that. That is really important because they're big numbers there, and it can make people go like, how are we ever going to do that? And you don't want to create a vision that you can't live into. So part of the way I think about this is there are ways that people can pay over time. So we do encourage 3 years. Some campaigns might stretch it even a little bit more to 4 years. For many people, including myself in the capital campaign that I was a part of, it is the largest gift I ever gave, and probably the largest gift I will ever give. And so for me, it's a legacy gift to the congregation I served. And so people might do that once in their lifetime, that kind of a gift. For some people, they have assets where these kind of gifts are not out of the realm of what they can do. And everybody's gift adds up over time to create what you want to create. And you'll find out, over time how close you get. They look like astronomical numbers. And my own experience is that it's actually usually pretty doable. And the feasibility study will tell us more when we do that, which is probably going to happen in the fall.
I might mention, I was going over these figures yesterday. Back in 2003, when we bought this building, there were 80 members. And they bought the building for $500,000 and put about $150,000 into cleaning it up and building the bathroom here and so on. That was with 80 members. We have 238 members and friends now.
Yeah, and the other thing is you can have a mortgage for some of it. So these are numbers that the property committee is going to be working with. Like, how do you create a budget that's going to work? So for you in the short and long term.
I'd like to also just share Rick's concerns, but also look at it from also a different perspective. yes, indeed, there's a lot of people in our community that have a lot of challenges, fiscal challenges, social challenges, educational challenges. And part of our vision here is to have a place for people who need community, who need a haven, a safe place to go, a place to enrich themselves and maybe get away from those pressures. You know, part of our vision is for us to become even more part of the community, more of a hub of the community. And so I think it's important to think in terms of, you know, really be sensitive to the individuals and the families out there with pressures, and our vision, how can we help them with that? And then the second thing is to think about, we're doing this not just for us, but even more so for future generations. So the families and the kids that sit over there every Sunday, we're doing this for them. We want this to be a thriving, long-term place in this community that continues to be there once we are somewhere else.
So I'm going to say that, first of all, there are people who are volunteering to help with this who understand the nuts and bolts of fundraising. There's a large data set out there about how do you know? You know, how do you know what you can raise and cannot raise and can do? And we have that knowledge, and we can, if we choose to, continue to have access to outside counsel. So part of it is trusting people who are professional to guide you. Second, giving is always voluntary, right? So everybody does what they can. So we don't ask anyone to choose between paying their bills and doing this campaign. This is more about stretching a little bit for 3 years. Everybody does what they can. There's also a large transfer of wealth going on right now between the baby boom generation, and they will all be gone in about 10 years. And this has been written up in the papers. And so this is about giving a bequest sometimes. This is about legacy giving. This is not about taking something out of your Social Security. This is about deciding that that extra quarter acre that you keep your tools in, maybe before you die, wouldn't be a bad idea to sell it. Get rid of it. I don't need it. Maybe you don't have that quarter acre, but if you do. So now I'm going to tell you a little story about a woman named Carla Marr. I was the executor to her estate. I am the executor to her estate. She worshiped here as part of the LGBTQ community. We adored her. We loved her. She was active. And she lived on her Social Security. And now, in her death, she is a philanthropist. She had no family. She had no one to give her life work to. And she had one thing. She had a house, a double-wide trailer in a meadow. And we sold it 6 weeks before she passed away. So she became, in her death, a philanthropist, because all the proceeds from that will go to this congregation. So unexpected ways will appear to us. I'm thinking about this right now. I'm sure, and I am not a large donor to this community. I donate my time more and my voice, but so just look, be not afraid.
I'd like to add that we're at the very beginning of this, this is going to be a year process of processing architectural plans, needs of the community, all kinds of things. And I would encourage anybody who has concerns about this or who feels really motivated to make it happen to join one of the committees, to get involved, to raise your voice. And because we need everybody's input here, not just those who are in favor of this, but those who are concerned about it.
Absolutely.
And you can help guide the final decisions that we make.
Absolutely. And along the way, there are multiple go and no-go moments. So this isn't, the congregation is not decided today to do a capital campaign. The congregation is moving forward to get you the information and the data that you need to make an informed decision. And I want to cut this off so people can get to soup. So do you have a final
I do.
comment?
I just wanted to say thank you, Rev Lydia, for being here and
welcome.
everything you've done. And thank you, everybody, for your passion. And Kristen, I plan to live more than 10 years. Just saying.
Thank you. Thank you all very, very much. It's soup time.